In the heart of Southeast Asia, there once stood a city of golden spires and bustling markets, a kingdom so rich in culture, diplomacy, and trade that foreign travelers called it the Venice of the East. For over 4 centuries, Ayutthaya was the pride of Siam, a powerful empire that commanded respect from its neighbors and awe from distant lands. Its kings ruled over an era of grandeur, its temples shone with gold, and its ports welcomed merchants from every corner of the known world. But in the year 1767, that glory would come to a violent and devastating end. Flames devoured its palaces, temples crumbled into ash. Once proud streets ran empty, filled only with the smoke of war, and the dynasty that had reigned for centuries was no more. This is the story of how one of Asia's greatest kingdoms fell, a tale of betrayal, siege, and the relentless march of an enemy determined to erase a civilization. The fall of Ayutthaya was not just the loss of a city, it was the death of a dynasty. To understand the tragedy of Ayutthaya's fall, we must first step back to see the brilliance of what was lost. Founded in 1351 by King Ramathabodhi I, Ayutthaya grew from a small riverside settlement into the beating heart of Siam. Its location was no accident. Nestled at the junction of 3 rivers, it was shielded from seaborne attacks, yet perfectly positioned for trade. By the 17th century, Ayutthaya was one of the wealthiest and most cosmopolitan cities in Asia. Its markets overflowed with silk from China, spices from the Malay archipelago, ivory from Africa, and silver from Japan. Persian diplomats, Portuguese traders, Dutch merchants, and French missionaries all walked its streets. The royal court dazzled foreign envoys with elaborate ceremonies, glittering jewels, and intricate dances that blended Hindu, Buddhist, and local traditions. But beneath the splendor, cracks had begun to form. The kingdom's expansion had brought it into frequent conflict with its neighbors, particularly Burma, whose own ambitions for dominance matched Siam's in ferocity. Wars between the two powers erupted again and again over the centuries, each leaving deep scars. By the mid-18th century, Ayutthaya's political unity was fraying. Factional rivalries within the court weakened the central authority, while the cost of constant warfare drained the treasury. The Burmese, watching closely, saw an opportunity and prepared for a strike that would change history forever. In the early 1760s, Burma was ruled by King Shin of the Konbaung dynasty, an ambitious monarch determined to expand his empire's influence over the region. Having already subdued much of Burma's rivals, his gaze turned once again towards Siam. Ayutthaya had long been a thorn in the side of Burmese kings, resisting subjugation and even defeating invasions in the past. But now the kingdom was weaker than it had been in generations. The Burmese strategy was bold and ruthless. In 1765, they launched a 2-pronged invasion. One army advancing through the northern routes of Lana, the other sweeping in from the west through the Tenasserim coast. The pincer movement left Ayutthaya's defenses stretched dangerously thin. For over a year, the Burmese forces pushed deeper into Siamese territory, defeating provincial armies and capturing key fortresses. Refugees flooded into Ayutthaya, bringing with them grim stories of villages burned, crops destroyed, and families torn apart. Inside the city's walls, tension mounted. The court was divided on how to respond. Some called for immediate peace negotiations, fearing total destruction. Others demanded a fight to the last man. The king, Ayutthaya, faced an impossible choice, but indecision proved costly. By late 1766, the Burmese armies had surrounded Ayutthaya. The once thriving capital was now a city under siege. Supplies dwindled, disease spread, and morale began to crack. Every sunrise brought new fear, and every sunset the knowledge that the noose around the city was tightening. The siege of Ayutthaya dragged into its 2nd year. By early 1767, the once proud capital had become a city of shadows. Starvation gnawed at its people. Soldiers who once wore gleaming armor now fought in rags. Rice, once abundant in the fertile land surrounding the city, became more precious than gold. The Burmese tightened their grip with relentless precision. They cut off supply routes, destroyed surrounding farmland, and waited for hunger to do their work. Skirmishes at the city walls became daily occurrences, volleys of arrows, bursts of cannon fire, and the cries of the wounded echoing through the smoky air. On April 7, 1767, the final assault began. Burmese troops breached the weakened defenses, pouring into the streets. Chaos erupted. Temples that had stood for centuries were set ablaze, their gilded rooftops collapsing in showers of sparks. Monks fled with sacred relics, families scattered in desperation. The royal palace, once the beating heart of Siamese power, was engulfed in flames. Priceless manuscripts, royal regalia, and centuries of historical records turned to ash in a matter of hours. Eyewitnesses later described the sky over Ayutthaya as black with smoke by day and red with fire by night. King Ayutthaya vanished in the chaos, reportedly dying shortly after the city's fall. The Burmese looted treasures, enslaved thousands, and left behind a smoldering ruin. Ayutthaya was not merely conquered, it was erased, its glory reduced to embers, its dynasty extinguished. The fall of Ayutthaya was more than the collapse of a city, it was the shattering of an entire civilization. For over 400 years, Ayutthaya had been Siam's political, economic, and cultural heart. Now its ruins lay silent, scattered with the blackened skeletons of temples and palaces. The Burmese departed after months of occupation, leaving devastation in their wake. Tens of thousands of Siamese had been killed. Many more were taken as captives to Burma, nobles, artisans, monks, and even members of the royal family. Skilled craftsmen were forced to work in Burmese cities, carrying with them fragments of Siam's artistry. The kingdom's administrative network collapsed. With the royal court destroyed and much of the nobility gone, law and order broke down. Banditry and local warlords rose in the power vacuum, fighting over scraps of authority. Trade routes that had once connected Ayutthaya to the world lay in ruins, and famine loomed as rice fields lay untended. Yet in the ashes, a spark of resilience remained. Survivors began to regroup under regional leaders, most notably General Taksin, a former military commander who would rally forces in the east. His determination would lay the foundation for a new capital, Thonburi, and eventually the rise of the Chakri dynasty in Bangkok. Still, the memory of April 1767 lingered like a wound in the nation's soul. The loss was not only material but spiritual, a rupture in Siam's history that would shape its identity for centuries to come. The fall of Ayutthaya stands as one of Southeast Asia's most haunting tragedies, a reminder that even the greatest empires can crumble when unity falters and enemies seize the moment. For centuries, the city had thrived through diplomacy, trade, and culture, yet it was undone by internal division and external pressure. History offers no second chances, but it offers lessons. Ayutthaya's fate warns us of the cost of complacency in times of peace and the dangers of underestimating threats in times of conflict. It shows how a nation's greatest strength, its wealth, culture, and openness, can also become its vulnerability if not guarded wisely. And yet, this is also a story of endurance. Though the city burned, Siam did not vanish. From the ruins rose leaders who would rebuild, adapt, and carry forward the traditions of their ancestors. Today, the remains of Ayutthaya are a UNESCO World Heritage Site, their crumbling stupas and headless Buddhas silently telling a story of both loss and survival. When we walk among those ruins, we are reminded that the rise and fall of civilizations are part of a greater cycle, one shaped not only by power and ambition, but by the choices of those who lead. Ayutthaya's fall was the end of a dynasty, but it was also the beginning of a new chapter in the history of Thailand. Thank you for respecting history. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and write the bell so you don't miss any battles.